there
No.
it is.
I told you it was. I don't lie about these
Slight
things.
delay.
Good morning, all
Good
staff.
morning.
Good morning.
Everyone
Good
else
morning.
joining us. Everyone else who's going to join us. Watch us on video. If you were with us before I pressed the button to go live, you would have heard a lot of whining. This is a
wasn't
morning
for
of
me.
why.
Whining in this team.
Is there anything anyone wants to get off their chest?
I wasn't whining.
You-
I wasn't whining.
He's chastising us for whining.
Yeah, exactly.
Jackie was playing the school marm.
Yes.
Giving us grief
Yeah,
for being
well,
whiny.
most everyone else
Exactly.
is whining, myself included. Rainy day, it can be
Wah,
kind of tough.
wah. I hear
know.
I hear Charlie Brown's teachers in the back. That's
Hey,
what I
listen,
hear.
we've been getting some good feedback on these lives. I think people are really getting a lot, and I think they're telling us they're getting a
are.
lot out of it. They're being
Absolutely.
entertained. They're being informed. Apparently, I am Jerry, and the rest of you are some combination of George, Elaine, and Kramer.
Lisa, I like wine too. Lots of it. No.
Really?
Hi, Lisa.
Listen, Seinfeld's the way to go.
Yes, I'm not sure who is who. You guys could get together and figure that out amongst yourselves.
I definitely
But
dance
I
better
am
than
Jerry.
Elaine. You're Jerry. You are.
Okay, let's get started. We have a lot to do today. At a certain point, I am going to depart abruptly. But until then, we have a lot to go over. So let's get started with Jen and our testimonial of the week.
Absolutely. So this is from Lysandra, who said, first of all, I have done this program before. I know it works with my dedication and commitment through this time. I gained weight and I felt tired and pain in my back. So I made the decision to do it again since I know it works. From the day I started the program, I felt much better since I knew I was going to achieve my goal. I lost 34 pounds and I felt sensational with more energy, less pain in my back, and healthier. So I hope to maintain my weight and health.
Fantastic. And Lizzie she looks amazing.
So
Really does. Yep.
I think the key point on that is that for her, it wasn't just about weight loss,
Right.
about how she felt and how to alleviate pain and just feel better about herself overall.
Got it. Yeah. And of course, we don't treat pain per se, but when you get rid of inflammation in the body, then we see that pain goes away.
Yeah. So I had an interesting visit with a doctor yesterday, and the PA, the doctor's PA, and I were talking about health and nutrition. And it's an oncologist office. So she was very aware of how healthy eating affects cancer cells. And she spoke about what we talk about here every day. She's like, clean eating, no sugar, low inflammation in the body. You have to keep the inflammation low, and it helps to keep the cancer cells from proliferating. So it was a really fun conversation.
I have a quick story about that. This was amazing. We had a client once who came to us. She wanted to do the program, but she was undergoing cancer treatment. I guess she was in between rounds or something like that. And she wanted me to speak to her oncologist. So I called the oncologist, and the oncologist at first was pretty like, I don't know, she wanted to do her own protocol without anything else getting in the way. And then she said, well, tell me about the program. So I started telling her, and she said at one point, that's going to do a lot better for her than the chemo will.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank you. That is amazingly honest and candid of you.
It's true.
I was not expecting that.
Especially
Did she do the program?
Yeah. Yeah.
And did the individual succeed?
The individual succeeded. Yes. Yeah. She was into it. Okay, Jen. So is that the only testimonial for today?
I just did one. I thought it was a pretty strong one.
No, absolutely. Yes. Amazing. Let's move on then to Jackie. Jackie was telling us that she has a recipe today. Don't ask her where it's from. That doesn't matter. All that matters is that it tastes good and it's good for you. Jack?
I'm sparing everyone for the history lesson. Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm not going to whip out my map today. Okay. I'm going to post it, and I'm also going to send it out today as well. But it's butternut squash soup with a spicy yogurt topping. It's so good. I don't know about you guys. Obviously, when the season starts to change, but I really get a feel for soups, and especially today, I'm like, we're totally having soup. But it's super easy. It's butternut squash soup, extra virgin olive oil, of course. If you're on program, you would use coconut oil. our pink salt, garlic, fresh thyme, low sodium, no sugar added, organic vegetable broth, hot water. That is it. Super simple. You're roasting it, mixing it, blending it together. You're topping it with cilantro as well. And then for the yogurt, I have my notes here. For spicy yogurt, you're using fennel seeds, cumin, and we're actually using cottage cheese instead of yogurt. So it's really good. It gives it a nice bite to it. You're gonna add your additional black pepper, sea salt, mix the two of them. It is so good. It gives it such a bite. It makes it creamy too. So if you put a dollop on top and spoon it through, it's really good.
Now, Jackie, for Lisa's sake, what wine would you pair with that?
Ooh. Josh would be really good with this. Josh would be really good with this. A red wine.
Pinot Noir.
Pinot Noir would
A
be
red
really
wine
good.
or a Pinot Noir?
Yeah.
Soup for me, no bread for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, no bread. There's no bread in this one. There's no bread in this one.
No bread
but
bowl?
if you're like no bread bowl, but if you're alternating your fruit, you can have that Pinot Noir with it.
You know, Jackie, when I asked that question, I really thought you were going to say something like, "What do I look like, a sommelier?" But you answered it. Well done.
Thank you. Me and John are definitely becoming
Whinies.
winos.
It's that thing.
We're enjoying it, so I will definitely give you a mix. What's that?
Can you see it?
No,
Oh man, the map. Did you play that for everybody?
I'm gonna
Feel
post
you know what? I'm not sure how to do it. I don't have it loaded up, so we're not going to do it. But so everyone knows, last week we decided to have a little party for Corinne's daughter because she had hurt herself and she was feeling sad. So we had a party, and it was the same day that we did our live. And of course, Jackie had that little faux pas with confusing countries. And so what I did was, as I was purchasing gifts for Corinne's daughter, I also purchased a puzzle that was a map of the world just for Jackie's sake.
And
I
at
know
first,
Jackie
he
appreciates
handed me
that.
this gift wrapped. I'm opening it in the office. I'm like, why'd you get me a gift? Putting me on the spot. And I'm like, he freaking bought me a map. He bought me a map.
It's a good picture.
For clarity.
A puzzle map.
Listen,
Puzzle.
geography matters.
Did
I did.
your son put it together yet?
Twice. He's done with it. To the bottom.
Nice. And what did you learn, Jackie?
I learned not to play games with you ever.
In which continent is Argentina?
I am not. Listen to me. First of all, I'm going to tell you. So, my defense, everybody who's listening, who's going to watch this, I was not saying that it was.
We're not going to relitigate this,
No,
Jackie.
this
I
is
think we discussed
unfair.
it enough last
This
week.
is unfair. I'm being put on the spot. This is unfair. And if anybody, it was good, right? Did it taste good? That's all that matters.
I didn't make it yet. I'm
tastes
waiting
good.
for somebody to make it for me.
I'll make it for you as long as you don't judge me.
When you
Although
make
judge doesn't-
everything.
I never love you.
All right, let's move on, says Jerry. So Thea, let's put you in the spotlight for a minute
Really?
because you are
Yes.
you're on the hot seat now. No, it's not going to be bad. I'm just using you to kind of lead into our topic.
Okay.
You're a strict vegan,
Yes.
and how long have you been a vegan for?
Probably about 10 years.
Nice. Okay, good. So I was a vegan for a while. And I remember when I was a vegan, I read a quote by Albert Einstein, who was a famous vegan.
And that's
And
he's my birthday buddy. We're born on the same day.
Oh, really?
Well, it explains you share a brain.
What, you just opened yourself up. Why would you do that? Why would you even do that? V, you could have the recipe that it's vegan and gluten free.
No, it's not. A cottage cheese and yogurt.
Well, that's the dip, but the actual
Oh,
the
okay.
soup you could have.
You can
Okay,
do
good.
it.
Thank you.
So getting back to Mr. Einstein, he had this quote, and it was really poignant for me. And he said, "Our task is to widen our circle of compassion to include all living beings." And I'll always remember that quote. And the reason it resonated for me was because I had conceived of people as kind of living in circles also, sort of in concentric circles, right? With ourselves in the middle, and then the circle around that being our families, and the circle around that being our friends, and the circle around that maybe being all of humanity, and around that being just animals in general. And then subsequently, I read some philosophy, and that is a concept that other people have come up with. So it's an interesting thing about knowledge. One of Jen's favorite quotes is that we don't learn things, we really relearn things or unlearn things or something to that effect. Right, Jen?
Um,
The knowledge was offered in the first
Yes.
place.
so the
Right.
knowledge is there.
And
So
so we're reminded.
yeah, we're reminded. I'm not,
Yeah.
it's not here to teach you what you. It's not here to teach you. It's here to remind you of what you already know.
Right.
We
Right.
carry
So we
it
already know quite a bit. And so just we get reminded sometimes. So that's why that particular quote resonated with me. And thinking today about that, if we are going to be healthy, if we are going to be well, we want to be well in all of those concentric circles. It's not enough if we're winning and our family isn't. It's not enough if we're winning and our family's winning and then our groups and our friends aren't. Ideally, we would want all of those concentric circles to be in a winning state. These are the realms of life. These are the
Right.
ball fields that we play on, for lack of a better way to put it. And Jen last week brought up a very specific reference to one of these concentric circles, probably the most important one. It's about children. So, Jen, why don't you go ahead and take it from here?
Sure. So this is, I just put the cover of our actual personalized book because you have it in your
The Way
background.
to Happiness.
This is what it looks like on our book that we give out. So what we're reading about, there are, do you want me to do just the one tract, the one precept, or two? They're very short. feed into
We'll
each
start
other.
out with the one.
Okay, we'll see how we do. So this one is called Love and Help Children. And there's some definitions here, so I'm going to give those to you first. One is environment, one's surroundings, the material things around one, the area one lives in, the living things, objects, spaces, and forces with which one lives, whether close to or far away. Materialistic, the opinion that only physical matter exists. Evolutionary, related to a very ancient theory that all plants and animals developed from simpler forms and were shaped by their surroundings rather than being planned or created. Moral, able to know right from wrong in conduct, deciding and acting from that understanding. So again, it's love and help children. Today's children will become tomorrow's civilization. Bringing a child into the world today is a little bit like dropping one into a tiger's cage. Children can't handle their environment and they have no real resources. They need love and help to make it. It is a delicate problem to discuss. There are almost as many theories on how to raise a child or not raise him as there are parents. Yet if one does it wrong, much grief can result, and one may even complicate his or her own later years. Some try to raise children the way they were themselves raised. Others attempt the exact opposite. Many hold to an idea that children should just be let grow on their own. None of these guarantee success. The last method is based on a materialistic idea that the development of the child parallels the evolutionary history of the race, that in some magical way, unexplained, the nerves of the child will ripen as he or she grows older, and the result will be a moral, well-behaving adult. Although the theory is disproven with ease, simply by noticing the large criminal population whose nerves somehow did not ripen, it is a very lazy way to raise children and achieve some popularity. It doesn't take care of your civilization's future or your older years. A child is a little bit like a blank slate. If you write the wrong things on it, it will say the wrong things. But unlike a slate, a child can begin to do the writing. The child tends to write what has been written already. The problem is complicated by the fact that while most children are capable of great decency, a few are born insane, and today some are even born as drug addicts, but such cases are an unusual few. It does no good to try to buy the child with an overwhelm of toys and possessions, or to smother and protect the child. The result can be pretty awful. One has to make up his mind what he is trying to get the child to become. This is modified by several things. What the child basically can become due to inherent makeup and potential, what the child really wants to become, what one wants the child to become, and the resources available. But remember that whatever these all add up to, the child will not survive well unless he or she eventually becomes very self-reliant and very moral. Otherwise, the end product is likely to be a liability to everyone, including the child. Whatever one's affection for the child, remember that the child cannot survive well in the long run if he or she does not have his feet put on the way to survival. It will be no accident if the child goes wrong. The contemporary society is tailor-made for child's failure. It will help enormously if you obtain a child's understanding of and agreement to follow the precepts contained in this book. What does have a workability is simply to try to be the child's friend. It is certainly true that a child needs friends. Try to find out what a child's problem really is, and without crushing their own solutions, try to help solve them. Observe them, and this applies even to babies. Listen to what children tell you about their lives. Let them help. If you don't, they become overwhelmed with a sense of obligation, which they must then repress. It will help the child enormously if you obtain understanding of agreement to this way to happiness and get him or her to follow it. It could have been an enormous effect on the child's survival. It could have an enormous effect on the child's survival and yours. A child factually does not do well without love. Most children have an abundance of it to return. The way to happiness has on its route the loving and helping of children from babyhood to the brink of adult life. There were some definitions on each page, so I apologize. I didn't read them first, so I'm going to go back if you don't mind. So I thought of it when I read the word. Precepts are rules or statements advising or laying down a principle or principles of a course of action regarding conduct, directions meant as a rule or rules for conduct. An obligation is the condition of fact or fact of owing another something in return for things, favors, or services rendered. So it goes back to the lines that I read.
Well, what a powerful precept that is, right? There was a lot there. I'm interested to know what you guys got from it. What were the main points that you took from that?
So there's a line in there that says, the children does what they write what they know. And growing up, my parents had that poem, "Children learn what they live." So I would read that, and it didn't really, I was a kid, so I would read it and I would read it again and I would read it again. And then I would go through it line by line. And when I grew up, which I'm kind of still doing, I had it in my house. I got one in my house, and I thought, what a great thing to have around, because it reminds you to model the best behavior for your kids. And this is sort of what this talks about, but it also goes into things to do and not do. Like, don't buy them things that aren't necessary. Don't overwhelm them with material things. I think, but the synopsis is to support them, let them make their own decisions, guide them, and they need love. That's really the biggest thing.
Got it.
That's what I was going to say.
If you're just joining us now, we're actually talking about ways to guide and help children. So this is interesting, and obviously we're a weight loss facility, but as we were talking about before, we want everyone to win in life, in all aspects of life. And if you're doing well personally and your children aren't, then what's that worth?
Yeah.
Trisha, you're a terrific mother, at least I think.
Oh, I think so.
I don't know that for sure. I might have to actually call your kids and ask them. I don't want to be proven wrong.
They're almost teenagers, so
yeah.
the answer might not be so great.
You could be
Okay, don't call them.
Right.
Don't call them.
What did you take from that?
Raising children is very hard. You always hope.
That's what you got from that.
Yes, and I feel like you're almost hoping for the best. Everything you do, they're listening to everything that you say, and you try to really install positivity and make sure that they're doing the right things in life, but at the same time hoping that they're not listening to the outside world. So for me, I feel like it's a constant struggle. Am I saying the right things? Am I doing the right things? Am I showing them the right examples? So for me, I think raising children is very hard. I wish they came with a little handbook when you left off.
This is sort of a little handbook, but I assume that you figured it was hard before you heard what Jen just read.
Oh yeah.
So did
definitely.
anything occur to you about it, what to do differently or more of or less of?
I feel like just modeling good behavior, watch what you say, in front of them. They're listening to everything,
And so the booze and the cigarettes, maybe don't do that around them.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Okay. Good. Well done. All right. How about you, Corinne?
To me, I got out of it. Children are like sponges, right? And
Mm.
it's they're absorbing everything that we say and we do, and it's our job as parents to fill the sponge with positivity
Mhm.
and love. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's a matter of parenting and like making hard choices for the best decision of your children. They may not
Right.
like it.
Right.
Right. Well, interestingly, I'm going to go in a moment, but I'm a guy. So, we like to just get to the bottom line, right? We don't like to kind of mess around with a lot of stuff. Just give me the bottom line. That's what I would have said to you, Jen. Don't read it. Just tell me the bottom line. And here's what I got from it is he was talking about basically two things that you want to help your children to become. One is self-reliant and the other is very moral. And I thought that was just amazing. If everyone could just do that, if they knew nothing else, but focused on helping their children to become very self-reliant and very moral, then we'd all do much better. On that note,
Absolutely.
I'm outie. Continue without me. And I will see you guys later.
Bye.
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 So, it's funny. I was like one of the first people in my group of friends that had kids, and my friends were all older than me, so they had them much later than I did. And they asked me when they started having kids, like what my advice was, and I was like, well, every kid is different, right? So like I had my older two, and I had my third one when they were 8 and 10, and I knew how to raise my first one and my second one because I had learned on them, and they learned with me. But up until that day, I didn't know any more about the future of what they were going to be. So like everything is different. For me, I always kept in line, I would always say health, manners, safety. Those things don't waver for me. So, get in the car, buckle your seatbelt, say hello and goodbye to people.
Yep.
Other than that, I didn't have like a whole lot of rules. And my kids will beg to differ with you because I was, do your chores, whatever. But my kids never got grounded. Like I never, the worst I ever did, their Game Boys, they had they were playing, I don't know what, Animal Planet, and they were fighting like crazy. And I started to notice that the more they played, the more they fought. So I was like, that's it. I took them both away, and it kind of quelled that a little bit. But anyway, when my friends asked, I said, you're going to get a lot of advice from a lot of different people. Everyone's well-meaning. You're going to hear it from your mother-in-law. You're going to hear it from your mother, your sister, even from me. And what the best thing I could say is to close your ears and parent from your heart, because you always know what's best for your kids. Like when, we talked that little tract had to do with like kids and morality, but I think it goes back to even parents don't necessarily know like what's the right way.
Right.
If you're yelling at your kids, how would you feel being yelled at? Like, is that kind of thing. There's a really great, it applies to today's government, but it can apply to families as well. It says, he locked me up, told me I couldn't go out, but whatever, screaming. And you're actually the one that I'm thinking about. Sorry, I'm going to backtrack on that. Is, my husband yelled at me, got in my face, yelled at me, pushed me against the wall, goes through all these things that an abusive spouse would do. And then it says, now look at that as if it were your kids. And it's like, whoa, like I would never speak to an adult the way sometimes I spoke to my kids. And it's, if I could dial it back a little bit, there are some things that I would change, but overall, I think it comes from us, but parenting from the heart is probably the best thing. And knowing that each one has different needs, like that's
why it makes it so hard. Like, are you doing the right things? Like there are things I wish I, could take back, and then you yell and then you say sorry, and then it's like, did they take that and absorb that? Like,
did they actually learn the lesson on why you said sorry? Right.
Right.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. Because like, for example, with my oldest, once I start yelling and screaming, you immediately see her back away.
Yeah.
You see the anxiety, and then I'm like, all right, I need to slow down. I need to take a breath.
Yeah.
Right.
But
it's hard.
Sometimes I can't.
No, it's a very hard balance. And I think that it comes to a point where I'm not much of a screamer, but when I come to that point, I'm like, I just like, all of a sudden it's just like fireworks, because I'm not, and it's not because I hold it in. It's more because I try to address things as they come.
Right.
Like, you know, my mom actually said it best too, where it's like, you don't reprimand the dog 2 hours after going to the bathroom on the rug. You do it right then and there.
Yep.
Whereas, like, so if I'm correcting my children, I do it in a very direct way too, where I reference both of them all the time. So even if it's like something my daughter's doing or my son's doing, and I'm like, both of you together, this is what has to be done. I want them to both see what's wrong in the scenario. Not that I'm singling one out for only doing something wrong or incorrect. So I feel like it's much more of a dialogue, but I'm very assertive with
Calm-mannered
it.
when you talk.
Yeah, I am. I think I am. You know, I try to, I make a lot of eye contact with them, very direct, very forward. I'm stern with what I'm saying. No is no, yes is yes. You know, all the time. I feel like, you know, certain, and I do know there are times like if I have yelled and I'm like, I catch myself being more upset than the actual scenario itself, because I feel like I'm like, "Ugh," I get flustered, and then I'm like, but why? But why? And then I start questioning myself, and I catch myself answering myself. So I'm like, talking out loud, I'm like, and I get like crazy.
Yeah.
But it's, for the most part, I'm like, that's really what it comes down to. It's that balance. I mean, they're very impressionable at any age.
Yep.
And I think that, you know, I personally think that we're a very loving and affectionate family. That's, to some extent, I mean, it does show in things that they do, but their personalities are what they were born with. Their personality, they are who they are. So I can be as impressionable as I want on them and give them all the examples that are there. But I could see cut down the line with both of my children, how they have features of myself, of my husband, of my in-laws, of my parents, of my both sides of the family. Good, all good. They're not bad qualities, but it's who make their makeup. It's already there. It's what we do with it, really. Because I think that, you know, we're not a household, but my kids have been in timeout before. They've had things taken away from them. When I say the word punish, I feel like that's kind of just too general. So it's not like they're a punishment household or grounded, but they have had things taken away from them. They have been corrected and you know, restrictions put in place. You know, I just think it really is a very personal thing. It has to be each. I've noticed as a parent, not every scenario, even if it happens again, is exactly the same.
Right.
So if I'm correcting my daughter on something that she also did wrong a week ago, and I'm correcting her again, the reaction is different. It's also, at one point, does it fall on deaf ears? So what is it that I'm doing to really execute and get a response from?
To get them
you know?
to hear. Yeah.
And
So
yelling is just like, that's the response. They're not getting a resolution.
Yeah.
You're getting a response.
it's ineffective communication.
Yeah.
So 4 of us here are parents. Thea's not. I'm going to ask an interesting question for you.
She's
Thea.
an aunt. That's next best thing.
So sometimes as
Give
an
him back.
Dog mom.
yeah,
Dog mom.
sometimes as an outside observer, it's easier to see because you're not in the emotional aspect of it, and it's easier to see what parents are doing that might not be the best handle for the situation. So what are your thoughts on what could help improve, just like from an outside view? Because we, even as non-parents, we still have an understanding of what's right to deal with other human beings, which children are. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the screaming is, I mean, I know it's hard because being a parent, I give you guys a lot of credit because it's extremely hard, very, very hard. But screaming is, you know, not effective.
Yeah.
Just from my point of view, and more love, like come from a place of love, whatever you're doing and however you're disciplining,
Right.
minus the screaming, just always have like that love in your heart because it's energy and they can feel it.
Right.
They
You know,
feel it all the time.
I have, like, so I agree with that. I mean, the yelling. So my thing is, I separate the two for the feeling coming from my heart and the delivery. Like, the truth is, me yelling. When I do yell, when it does, and Corinne knows, I mean, I'm not a yeller like that, but I'm like direct. So if I am going to yell, or it doesn't mean I'm not coming from my heart, or it just means that I've gotten to that point where my delivery is now not clear. My delivery is loud. I'm not. It's not the best choice. Doesn't mean that I'm not coming from. For me, for when I am, there are people, you know, that do yell because they just come from an angry place. That's different. Like, that's not me. That's not my husband, my household. Like, we're not those people. You know what I mean? And angry or not, we're fighting within the same breath. It's like we're still having a conversation. It is okay to be angry to get past it, to address an issue, and still at the same time ask you how your day was. So that's
Well,
another thing too.
So my nephew, when he was getting in trouble one day, we were out to dinner, and I don't know, he didn't do his homework or something. I can't remember what it was.
Yes.
My brother is very stoic, and he doesn't like really raise his voice but I could see that he was, because my nephew had an exam and it was like really important for his grade, or it was something important, and he didn't do. And my brother, I saw that he started getting angry and escalating, and I was sitting next to my nephew, and I'm like, oh God, because I'm very protective of my nephews, you know. That's just what an aunt does. It's like a grandmother kind of thing.
No, but
it's true.
And so, you know, my brother started raising his voice, and I was like, am I going to have to knock my brother out if he goes to attack my nephew? I'm not going to do that. So I just put my hand, while my brother was raising his voice, I put my hand on my nephew's leg, just let him know I'm here. I love you, and, you know, it's going to be all right.
You know, it's a very hard thing because, you know, and I kind of get the same feeling as you're saying it. Like, we've all been in those scenarios where I was coming from someone who has kids to before I had kids, when it was just my nephews. And it's like, if you see somebody getting in trouble, and it's like you jump, you want to protect them. You want to always make them feel comfort and safe, and it's okay. And on any level, not to say that everything is an aggressive argument either. That's not what I'm saying. But like in a position where it's like, oh, don't do that. You can't help. You want to stop the confrontation immediately. You want to be like, no, it's okay. It's okay. Like, no, don't yell at them. Oh, stop. Yeah. Come on. Don't overreact. But if the shoe was on the other foot for the person who's the parent, it's the truth. I mean, we've all been in that position too. Like, I've done the same thing where my nieces, my nephews are like, oh, come on. I'm like, don't, you know, and I catch myself, if it's my kid, I'm like, you know better.
Or the grandmas. Grandmas are doing that too. The grandmas are like, oh, it's okay. And I'm like, it's not around.
Come on, just leave it. All right, it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Stop,
they'll look at me and be like,
all the time.
You need to back up.
It's funny. It just happened to me because and it wasn't meant bad. They were joking about it, but like, I was getting frustrated. It was something that happened on Sunday, and my mom agreed with me. She totally agreed. She's like, oh, my dad's like, oh, but can you just yell at him when we're not here?
No.
I said no. And I'm like, no. That just got me more frustrated. And then what happens is that my kids will just like kind of like a little snicker because it lightens the situation. And it's not that I need the situation to be diffused in any way, but it's just like, just hear me. Just like, hear what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying it to be, I'm not trying to be that, you know, going against the wind here. I'm not trying to be mean. And it's respect what I have. I'm saying something with reason here, you know, but my husband, we reference it all the time when we make fun. My husband comes from a very old school traditional household, and, you know, they got yelled at. They were very, very strict. And now we laugh because with the grandchildren, it's like, you know,
it's like a free for all.
Exactly. They fart butterflies.
Jackie,
like,
what's the saying in your house when you say sorry?
Oh, wait, sorry. Oh, sorry, don't milk the cow. For everything. My daughter, if it's like sorry, so now my daughter says it's like, sorry, don't milk the cow. Sorry, don't do the laundry. Sorry, don't pick up your clothes.
So, you know, it's funny. Sometimes it's easier, again, to see as an outside observer. And I know it gets us annoyed because I have a grandmother who lives with us. So, you know, sometimes it's easier to not see the outside point of view. So if we can step back and see what somebody else is seeing, maybe we wouldn't be doing those things as parents. But, you know, effective parenting, I don't think happens when we're yelling. And I don't think it happens when we're coming down hard on them. And maybe what the outsider is trying to say is to like take a moment and pull back and think about if that's the best. Yeah.
I mean,
so there's a great article. I forgot who wrote it, but it's called Everything I Learned About Training My Husband. I learned from Shamu. So it talks about how to train a killer whale, and it's all positive reward and you ignore the negative. And it's funny because that's one of the things that I am working on now with kids. But with husbands, but with stepchildren, but with mothers. You know, if we don't continually flow positive thoughts, Thea said energy, love at people, even when we're angry at them, because it does break down, it does change the flow when we're annoyed, but it always has to come from from a good place, that translates into something not so good. And then it turns into yelling because we've broken the affection. And it doesn't seem like it in the big scheme of things, but at the moment, we've kind of like lost that connection. So it does become easier to yell. Like I have great times that I've had some really great parenting moments with my kids. And I try to look back on those when I'm moving forward. I only have one left and she's 16, so it's a little different. But there were times where I looked back and I thought, whoa, like if someone spoke to me the way I just spoke to my child, I would consider it abuse. So it's not always easy when you're in the moment, but.
Of course. And you know what? I'm a dog mom. I know it's not the same. However, he's a really, really, really good dog, and people comment. And my other dog of 14 who passed away, she was a really, really good dog as well. I got compliments all the time at how well behaved they are at such young ages and even throughout their whole life. And it's because I did the positive reinforcement.
Yeah, exactly.
I rewarded their good behavior, and always spoke to them with love, and that's why I named the older one was Harmony.
Aww.
Because the energy of that word is just a high vibrating word, and I'm calling her all the time. And the new one is Love, and that's the most highest vibration. Yeah. So that's the reason why I named them the way I named them.
That's why a lot of people choose their names for their kids.
Yeah.
I know somebody who named all her children after flowers.
Ooh. It's sweet. It's a rush of affection when you call them. Yeah, I probably was more positive and reward based with my dog than I was with my kids.
Me too.
Curve, Yeah, it's the same principle applies.
They don't yell back. They don't yell back. They don't fight back.
Well,
they rub my belly. That's it.
They do. They push the envelope. They do a lot of things. But if you're constantly yelling at your dog, you're going to have a really angry dog. So the principles apply. So. Guys, I have to dip. I have a couple things to handle, so you guys are welcome to stay on and chat.
Or guys.
All right, bye, guys.
All right, on to next week.
Bye. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.